It's a pleasure to see everybody here, finally. We spent a long time thinking and planning and trying to envision this moment, and it's important for us that everybody is here. But I'd like to talk a bit about this group and how it formed, and the implications of this group. So we could say, as in the old days of spies, we could say that I was recruited in the way that the Soviet Union recruited Finley. I was recruited by Grant Watson, so who is, as everybody knows, or as many people know here, a staff member at Iniva. And there was
no longer.
Excuse me, no longer. So there's and this is indicative, I think. Yeah. The recruitment had a certain clandestine nature to it. And it's important to reflect a bit on the clandestine nature of this group, who met over the past year in different occasions at different points to argue over the mission, the future, the purpose, and the raison d'etre of Iniva. What became clear to us, and what became clear to everybody here, I think, is that Iniva had suffered a self-inflicted reputational damage in which Iniva had undergone what Morgan Crainton's called a process of inconsequence and irrelevance. What we wanted to know was how that happened, and what we wanted to do was take responsibility for opening the conversation towards a new future for Iniva, towards renewing its commitment to the questions of internationalism, and towards questioning what internationalism actually meant in the contemporary era. Because what it seemed to us was that there was no particular consensus about what Iniva's new mission should be, how Iniva should renew itself, and this lack of consensus was crucial. What it pointed out to us was that we could no longer sit by and live in a moment in which the board and the directors decided among themselves with the Arts Council on the future directions of Iniva. On the contrary, the critical response to Iniva's decline is only an index of the love, the passion, the feeling, and the attachment, and the affiliations that all of us here have for Iniva. Critique is only a sign of love. It is given through love, through admiration, and through a belief in what it could be, what this organisation should be, and what it in fact must be. But legally, technically, organisationally speaking, it's quite possible for Iniva and the Arts Council, the board and the directors to decide among themselves on the future of this organisation, to decide on a future which discounts all of us but which is continually articulated in our name. And so the relation between Iniva and its public is broken. It has been shattered. Too many disappointments, too many failures, too many weak thinking, a lapse of responsibility, of intellectual ambition and intellectual aspiration, a diminishment of scope, a diminishment of scale, has led to this sorry state that we all realise. The fact of an Arts Council cut is only public recognition of the failure that Iniva has fallen into. And so what I see here today is the beginning of the rebuilding of the linkages between Iniva's publics and Iniva's future. I don't think any of us can sit around and allow Arts Council and the board to decide on its future. On the contrary, we are all invested in its future, and we all have to formulate discussions. So, for those who might think that our small group are sitting behind closed doors discussing the future of Iniva, this is not the case. On the contrary, it's now more necessary than ever to invite more people than ever into the fold, for everybody to self-authorise themselves to articulate what that future of Iniva might be. Nobody knows and nobody has a clear agenda for its organisational structure. In a sense, we'll get to Iniva's organisational structure. We'll get to the division of Iniva's public programmes, its education programme, its publishing programme, its exhibition programme. But before that, crucial to that is the rebuilding, renewing, reaffirmation of its audiences, of its public, of its sphere, of the entire public space that Iniva was supposed to formulate and was supposed to be responsive to and was supposed to be a loudspeaker for. This is what is missing, this is what has been missing for several years now, for years before the present directorship. Morgan Quaintance, just to articulate once more his essay, because his essay, Unfit for Purpose, provides a kind of useful point of departure for where we are now. Morgan says, the crucial point about Iniva is that that Iniva's failure is ultimately the product of historical forces that transcend personal failings. This might be true, I happen to disagree. I think personal failings exacerbate historical forces. And I think other figures would have been able to understand that the pressures that made internationalism, globalization, cosmopolitanism, digitization, and these grand forces, the pressures that made these ideas become turbulent again, I think other figures could have been able to articulate them differently. But I think that the exacerbation of the leading of a figure who was incapable of marshalling the grand questions of our time, and who was incapable of making Iniva a space in which the grand questions of his future could be articulated, has led to the sorry state we are in now. And so I invite all of you to both articulate your discontent, because this discontent is inescapable and cannot be separated from the question of love.